everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. I want to be respectful of your time. So thank you very much for coming. We have assorted snacks down here. So again, apologies for not going grocery shopping, but such is life. Today we are going to do an online demo of the bidding process that you can see just the mechanics of bidding, how it works, what it's going to look like, what's involved from a timing perspective, like basically how long it's going to take you to bid, so that you have that knowledge moving forward. Some of you I recognize from yesterday, so I know there was a ton of information that we threw at you yesterday in a very compressed period of time. So before we get started with the online demo, I just wanted to check if anybody had any questions or wanted to ask anything in relation to the topics that we covered yesterday. Anybody?
I actually have a question.
Absolutely.
So if you are not doing OCI, or you are doing OCI, but you want to do other, if you want to look into other ways of getting a job, when should you start that?
Now. Well, hopefully.
It's a great question.
It is.
And now is in some ways the answer, but not in a panicky way.
Yeah, no. Oh my God, freak out.
It's a great question, and it's good to be thinking about it. We're going to have programming coming up later this semester talking about that next week, because there's going to be a student panel.
And just, sorry. Well, and also to address your comment, for anybody doing OCI, they should not only be doing OCI, they should be doing other things as well. So that is a very good question, and you should be, formulating a well-rounded job strategy, not just putting all your eggs in the OCI basket, because that's just one thing that's available to you to line up your next gig. Yes.
With the Meet the Employers event in April, I think.
Yes.
What's kind of the point of that? Is that to just have them meet us, or so we can get to know them to prep people?
Both, absolutely. So the Meet the Employers reception, which hopefully you will all come to, is an informal in the terms of it's a less structured environment for you to meet with the employers that are going to be recruiting on campus. Most of them through OCI, but some of them through the off-campus programs and resume collections as well. It's a chance for you to get to know them and meet them now, before recruiting season and the craziness of bidding and all the applications begin. This way, you have some familiarity with the personalities involved. You will be able to, kind of get a sense, a vibe of the firm based on who they've sent to represent them at this event. As well, it will give you a chance to be known to them, so that you're actually, a flesh and blood person, as opposed to just a resume that's coming across the desk in a pack of 50 after bidding. It's a great networking opportunity because you can make these connections now and maybe, stay in touch with these folks and these firms and meet more people at the firms over the summertime. And then you're very well positioned moving into the recruiting season. So when I say casual, I mean the vibe of the event is meant to be less, structured. It's just a meet and greet, grab a cocktail, grab some food, and chat. But it is interview attire, so you should all be in suits. You're going to be getting notes to that effect. But they'll all be in suits. You're in suits. It's just not an interview. It's just, a mix and mingle.
Okay, so there's a couple of follow-ups. So, do the people who usually come to that the same people who do the interview?
It'll depend on the firm, but frequently, yes. Most of the representatives who are coming to the reception are Notre Dame alums. Some of them are the same alums that will return in the fall and do the actual interviews. Other times, they might have different representatives available. Sometimes the folks that they send to this are on campus for another reason. Or they might be available now, but they're, it's not the same people that are going to be available in August. Don't forget, August is, crazy OCI season, so all of the interviewers are going to multiple schools, so it might not be the exact same people. But I tell you from experience last year, the people who come to the Meet the Employers reception, if they're not the interviewers, they go back and they tell the recruiting folks and the recruiting committee, be on the lookout for this person, they were awesome. or, you know, I told so-and-so to come on in for lunch because I want to introduce her to you. And so they're all on the lookout at this reception for the people they should be on the lookout for in the recruiting season. Okay? Yeah? Anybody else? Yes?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Is it a similar process with the off-campus interview program where you have, when you're doing like interviews in like the other like regions of New York or LA or whatever, like reaching out to alums to try to get yourself interviews?
No. Okay, so there is bidding that will take place for those off-campus programs, and it's extremely similar to the bidding for on-campus. You certainly can reach out to alums and do the networking so that you are getting information about these employers and you're in a good position for the interviews. Are you going to be asking for early interviews? No. Again, like we discussed yesterday, you're going to be doing your networking and you're going to be reaching out to these folks and interacting with them, but you'll go through the off-campus interview program and the bidding just like you would for OCI. So, like we said yesterday, don't be, you know, carpet bombing the recruiting contacts for the firms that are participating in these off-campus programs. You'll be doing your alumni outreach and your networking and everything. And if you happen to get invited in for an early interview, that's fine. But again, you'll go through the channels and bid just like you would for OCI. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody? All right. There is going to be a lot more information coming to you about OCI and the off-campus programs. There will be all kinds of emails from me. I'm going to be doing some webinars over the summer just to kind of do a refresher on some of this information. It's a long time until bidding. It's what, 3 months away? 2 months, 2.5 months. So it's a lot of information, and we'll be, you know, distributing the information and the guidance in various forms throughout the summer. Okay? I'm also going to hold kind of like office hours in the Commons and in my office for people to just ask questions and whatnot, because I know a lot of people don't like to ask questions in the bigger rooms, or if you have a very specific question. So I will no doubt be sending you an email about that. Great. All right. So now we're going to be talking about the actual mechanics of bidding. I am going to log in exactly the same way you would to Simplicity. And I will take you through the bidding process. Okay. Now, I have a test student profile up here. I am Molly, test student. I have identified myself as a 2L, but I'm graduating in 2018. That doesn't make any sense, but for test purposes, it's fine. So the account that I logged into now as a 2L filters in only the things that 2Ls see. I don't see 1L stuff in here, and I don't see 3L stuff. It's just what's applicable to me as a 2L student. One thing I would like to get you in the practice of doing, you'll see up here, you've got your news feed. So the home screen, when you log in, always has any announcements or reminders or invitations or things. I'd love to get you in the habit of reading that screen, or at least looking to see if there are any new announcements if you're not already in the habit of doing so. I do use this section a lot for reminders and all kinds of, you know, to call your attention to all kinds of things during recruiting season. I'll never put something in here that doesn't appear elsewhere. This is just kind of another avenue to just kind of remind you. So get in the habit of reading it, and it might help you out in the future. So once you sign in, you see, you know, the tabs across the top that I know you're all intimately familiar with because you're in Simplicity all the time, right? We're only going to focus on the ones today that are applicable to bidding for the on and off campus programs. You will see that there is an OCI tab, and the OCI tab also has the New York off-campus program available in it. So the New York off-campus program is run exclusively by Notre Dame, exclusively for Notre Dame students. Therefore, you can use your Notre Dame Simplicity account for that one. If you want to participate in any of the other programs in LA, San Francisco, Miami, DC, or Philadelphia, you'll need a Simplicity account through the Law Consortium, and you can email that request to me if you didn't sign up for one yesterday. You'll have plenty of opportunities to do that. So you will need a second Simplicity account for some of the off-campus programs. When you click into OCI, or the OCI tab, you will see this OCI section. Mine looks different from yours because I'm a 2L right now, and I activated bidding so that I could do the online demo for you. So it's looking a little different. There are little hints and notes on here to kind of help provide a little bit of guidance for some of the frequently asked questions that we get. So little icons that might show up next to your bid, or right here, before you begin bidding, we encourage you to review the entire list of employers, little things that we just, kind of want to remind you about. In this section, you click in through OCI and you see employers bidding. That's the tab that we're on. This is where you will see the list of employers coming for OCI. There is, in this search filter section right here, a drop-down menu for the OCI session. Right now, the only one open is early interview week, and you see that the dates are right there. The names of the subsequent sections will look the same. It'll say fall OCI, and in the parentheses, it'll have the dates. Remember, each one has its own bidding window and timing that you'll need to pay attention to. And you will also see that there is a section for documents and important dates. When the real bidding dates are up here, after today's demo, this will be like a little reminder section for you about when bidding is opening and closing, when you can update your resume after bidding closes, when schedules are coming out, and the important dates that pertain to the session that you've identified in this drop-down menu. Okay? So right now you see 48 schedules are here in the early interview week. So these are 48 of the employers that are coming the first week. Before you all run to just jot down all the names, I'll just send you a list. Save your time. But this is what it's going to look like when you click in and you see who's coming. You will always see the name of the employer in this first column. The name of the location in parentheses is the office that is registering. And that may not be the only office that is interviewing for job opportunities. It's just the one that kind of owns the schedule, if you will, and the office that's managing it. If there are additional locations that the employer is interviewing for, they will be in this second column, locations interviewing for. So Baker and Hostetler in Cleveland is interviewing only for their Cleveland office. Baker McKenzie in Chicago is interviewing for Chicago. But Brian Cave is interviewing for Atlanta, Denver, Irvine, Kansas City, so a bunch. And this, just at a glance, is where you'll see who is interviewing for which offices. Okay? Their interview date will be right here as well. Right now, these are listed alphabetically, and Baker Hostetler is coming on August 9th. Right now, there is no bid submitted for any of these employers by Molly, test student, myself. So it'll say no bid in this column. Once you submit a bid, you will be able to see it at a quick glance when you click into your OCI tab. Okay? For any and all employers that are coming, if you want more information about their schedule, and you do, you click on the review button to the left of the employer name, where it says review. So you see, in this case, we have a little bit more information. There's a link to the website. They're conducting 20-minute interviews for summer associates with 2Ls. If an employer is also coming to campus to interview 3Ls, it will be listed there as well. The date that they're coming, again, this confirms that they're interviewing only for Ohio. Do they allow multiple interviews? This is something that you will see a yes or a no for all employers that are coming to campus. Certain firms conduct their recruiting efforts office by office. So if you're interested in Cleveland, you interview with Cleveland. Their Columbus office also comes, Baker and Hostetler, and they interview separately. You can interview with both offices, therefore you can have multiple interviews. If it says yes right there, it means you can interview with multiple offices. If there's a no right there, it means you get one interview, and you can express interest in any or all offices that interest you to the one interviewer that you're going to meet with. So firms that have centralized recruiting, they do that. They want one interview only, and then they'll kind of match you according to what they're looking for and what you want.
Concrete example of that is Jones Day. Jones Day typically will sign up for 3 or 4 schedules here. So we'll have 3 or 4 sets of interviewers, and each set of interviewers will be interviewing for a different set of offices. You can't interview with all 3 sets of interviewers. They're only going to let you interview for one. Even if you might be interested in offices that 3 different sets of interviewers are interviewing for, you'll still have the ability to express your interest in different offices in that. Just you can't interview with more than one set.
And the reason they do that is, again, it is centralized, but all of the big firms have applicant tracking systems, and they want one electronic record for each student, and they don't want it to be compartmentalized across multiple offices.
It's an efficiency thing for them too.
Definitely efficient,
There's so many students in so many schools, it's a waste of time to have the same set of, the same student interviewed by multiple sets of shading interviewers.
Yep.
Rather see more candidates.
Also, if you happen to have an interview before OCI with an employer who has the no multiple interviews, Jones Day is a great example of this as well, you will not be able to interview during OCI because the interview that you conducted over the summer will count as your official interview. Is there any benefit to doing it OCI versus earlier in the summer? It's probably actually better to do it earlier in the summer. And that's when they're going to want to get you in. And you get to go to their office space, which is, always a good thing as well. Is that what you were going to say? Okay. And a lot of times the firms will manage this with me. So they'll say, hey, we saw John Smith yesterday, take him off our schedule. Or we have an appointment with him. We're not gonna select him during OCI, so please remove his bid. If there are additional requests, they will appear right here. I'll show you an example of that in a minute. From firms that are coming and interviewing for multiple offices, it's extremely common to see in the additional request section, please specify office preference in cover letter. So if they're interviewing for 5 offices, your cover letter should delineate which office or offices you're interested in, and as well spell out any ties that you have to that area or those areas so that they have that information. And to be honest, any employer preference can go in this additional requests. If they're asking for a writing sample and they want to make sure it's less than 10 pages, they're going to put that in there. If they want you to address your cover letter to a specific person, they're going to put that in there. So.
Strategy point there, if they're asking you to specify office locations, that doesn't mean that you should just list them with every single location they offer. That's not going to make your odds better.
It's going to make them worse, actually.
Choose offices strategically. Pick ones that you're interested in working in and that you have some credible connection to. That might be 3 or 4 offices. It might be 1 office. But you're not going to get yourself anywhere by just throwing out a laundry list of 7 different offices that you're interested in because you think that's going to give you better odds. It's not.
In the final column here is the hiring criteria that they have identified. So Baker and Hostetler in Cleveland has a 3.2 GPA required. If you don't have a 3.2, you can submit a bid. The employer will see that bid and they might select you. But if they don't, as we discussed yesterday, if your bid is not pre-selected, it will be reviewed before we do the lottery, and if you do not have a 3.2, it will be removed from lottery consideration. Okay? Again, they can pick anyone they want, and it's not uncommon for a firm to pick a candidate that doesn't necessarily meet their exact hiring criteria. They might see something else on the resume that makes that candidate compelling, and they can pick anyone they want. So you'll see they have a required GPA cutoff, but then they have a preference as well, moot court and law journal preferred. We do not remove any bids for preferences. They can put whatever they want in the preferences, and we're not going to review or remove any bids based on what they prefer. Okay, requirements only. So that's an example of what the schedule details look like. Right here at the bottom in this is this list, or this button to go back to the main list. So you go back to your main list, you can look at another one. I'm going to pull up a different one. So here's Brian Cave with the multiple offices, same thing, 20-minute interview, summer associate. They put in some information about their summer program or what they're looking for. Employers can put whatever they want in this field, and it can be as long as they want it to be. It's an expanding text field. So they can put nothing, or they can put a lot of information. It's just up to whatever their preference is. They're interviewing 2Ls. So here we go. They're coming on the 9th as well. They're interviewing for this laundry list of offices. Do they allow multiple interviews? No. Additional requests. Students should note office preference in the cover letter, and the writing sample should be 10 pages or less. Very common to see that kind of a thing. Always make sure that you follow any and all instructions that you see in the OCI screen. Because this is the first example that you're giving this potential employer that you know how to follow directions. And trust me, it really bugs them if you presume that they want something else, or you assume they want something that they haven't asked for. They don't like that. They know what they want, and they're asking you for it, and they're giving you the directions, so make sure you follow them. This one, hiring criteria, GPA of 3.33 or higher and law review journal experience is preferred. There is no requirement in that statement. Nothing is required, it's only a preference. No bids will be removed from lottery consideration for Brian Cave. Okay? So only when there is a hard and fast requirement will we review and remove any bids. Okay? Any questions on this stuff so far? Pretty straightforward? Okay. If I decide, I'm looking at these details, I decide I want to bid. Assuming I've looked at the entire list and done all my research over the summer, I'm going to go ahead and bid. In this section right here called Bid Details, this is where you submit your bid. The employer is Brian Cave, they're just kind of reminding you of that. That's what you're submitting your bid for. The very first thing the system is going to ask you for is your bid ranking. So you'll see you have 1 through 99 available to you. You saw on the master list that there are currently 48 employers coming in that week. You have 99 bid numbers that you can deal with. So if you know your you know your bid is not going to make it into the lottery if you're not pre-selected, as we discussed yesterday, use a bid number that is not going to matter. Use something higher than 48 because your bid's not going to make it into the lottery anyway, and you shouldn't waste a high bid ranking that will give you a better chance in the lottery. Use a throwaway number, okay? Does that make sense? Okay. You can, yes?
How does the lottery work?
Okay, so there will be a pool of bids for each employer. Let's go with Brian Cave. Let's say they get 100 bids. They see all 100 bids. They have 23 slots on their schedule. A standard 20-minute interview day is 23 slots. They can pre-select 70%, which is 16 people. So they will pre-select 16 people and designate 3 alternates, so that's 19 people out of their 100 bids. The other 81 bids are not pre-selected. We will go through as the CDO and review every non-selected bid to make sure it meets any specified requirements. Brian Cave doesn't have any requirements, so all 81 of those remaining bids are going to be eligible for the lottery. Simplicity has an algorithm that takes into consideration mainly your bid ranking and will fill the lottery slots that are available on the schedule. That's why your bid ranking matters a lot. If you were to, let's say Brian Cave does have 81 bids that are going into the lottery. There are only 7 slots. If you rank Brian Cave, say, number 5, you're probably not going to get in on the lottery. You're probably going to have to rank it a 1 or a 2 because there are, 150 students that are going to be participating in OCI. So the higher you rank the bid, the better a chance you have of getting in a lottery slot that becomes available. Okay?
It's still a lottery, though.
It's still a lottery.
It's not an absolute,
Yeah,
so.
definitely not.
Ranking
Yeah.
at 1 gives you a higher chance. That doesn't necessarily mean that because you ranked at 1 and your friend ranked at 2, that you're going to end up getting it and they won't. It's like the NBA draft lottery, you really have the ping pong balls. There's more ping pong balls for the team that have the worst record, but they don't always win. So there's that element in there too, in case that might happen, you're wondering what takes place.
Yeah, and the more popular the employer, the more bids are going into the lottery potentially, and the higher the ranking needs to be in order to help you secure one of those slots. There are Chicago firms last year that didn't specify any hiring requirements, and therefore we didn't remove any bids, and not even all the people who ranked it #1 got in through the lottery. So, that's why you need to evaluate the whole list and have a strategy for your preferences. Yes?
I just have a question in regards to like a cover letter.
Uh-huh.
Say that a firm doesn't specify exactly who you're supposed to address the cover letter to.
Yep.
What's customary, like do your hiring committee?
Good question.
Yeah.
Whenever possible, if there is no guidance in Simplicity for the cover letter, you should look to find a specific name.
Yeah.
So you should not say, to whom it may concern, dear sir, madam, hiring committee, recruiting committee, anything like that. You should try to find the name of an individual. If it is a NALP firm, and most of the firms coming for early interview week are NALP firms, go to the NALP directory, find the name of the hiring partner. Or go to the website and find the name of the hiring partner, if they're not a NALP firm. You kind of can't go wrong with who you address your cover letter to, as long as it is a valid partner or member of an executive committee at the firm, especially if they haven't given you any specific guidance. Just make sure that whomever you're looking up, you spell their name right. And make sure, if you can't tell if it's a male or a female, call and find out. You don't want to put Miss Chris Johnson if Chris is a guy. So, or vice versa. So, just make sure if you can't easily find the name of a hiring partner, that you pick someone off the website that it looks to be a potentially appropriate person and spell their name right. You're not going to dock you any points for addressing it to one partner over another.
The reality is these are all large firms, so they're either going to have an outform because they're not members, or they're going to have a well-developed website that's going to have contact information for anyone involved in the recruiting process, whether that be the hiring partner for an office, whether it be the managing partner, whether it be the recruiting coordinator, whoever. So you're going to be able to find 99% of the time in the name of somebody who has a role in the hiring process, and that's a safe person for what you want to.
The NALP directory is going to be your best bet. It's the easiest thing. It's updated every year, and it gives the name, the title of the hiring partner for each individual office. If you're ever having trouble because it's a smaller firm, you can't find any appropriate information, the website's really opaque, call me or email me, okay? So you'll give it a ranking. Then you will attach your documents. Now, when you're bidding, you want to put all the necessary documents into your document collection. We'll go over that in a minute. In the Documents tab. Hopefully y'all have uploaded documents before, but we're going to go through it in a minute. What you're going to do is select the documents from your document collection that you want to attach to this bid. Okay, so this is your Brian Cave bid. And they're requiring a resume, a cover letter, an unofficial transcript, and a writing sample. How do I know that? That's what the windows are that are here. Each one of these is required. If it appears in this bid detail section, you have to attach it. The system will not accept your bid unless or until you attach everything necessary. So resume. I have 2 resumes in the system. Resume Spring 2015 and New Resume. You can have more than one version of your resume in the system. Make sure you know which one is which, and you attach the right one to the bid. If you've got one that you're using to target employment law, or one versus, I want to be a prosecutor. So make sure you know your different versions of your resume. If you only have one, that's fine. Most people have one. And you can distinguish a default resume from other resumes. And the system will automatically select your default resume from the others that are in your collection so that you actively have to change the resume if you need or want to. Yeah.
Do they see the name of like what you call
No.
things?
Thank you for asking that. No. Employers do not see the names or timestamps of anything. They don't see your bid rankings. They don't see document names. They don't see document paths or anything about it. They will see an icon with an R on it for resume and a C for cover letter. So they will not see anything. You can call these documents anything you want as long as you can distinguish the titles well enough to understand what it looks like in these drop-down menus. So see, I've got 3 cover letters in here. I abbreviate them, it doesn't make any difference. They're not going to see that. I just need to know which cover letter I am going to attach, okay? So again, on the resume, just going back to that real fast, if you have multiple resumes in the system, they'll all appear in this drop-down. You'll see my resume spring 2015 has an asterisk next to it. That's because I've identified it as my default resume, and that's the one I want the system to default to. If I have multiple versions, I can click in. If you don't feel like you have to have multiple versions of your resume, one version is fine. Cover letter. I've already written my cover letters. I've found the appropriate contact information. I've converted it to PDF. It's in my document library, and it now shows up in this drop-down menu. So I'm just going to pick this random one because it's an example. But you're going to want to make sure that you pick the right cover letter. Every single year, we have multiple errors with Jones Day getting Kirkland's cover letter, or vice versa. And last year, we had a really good one. Someone accidentally uploaded their Dykema cover letter for every single bid. So every single 20-odd people got the Dykema Gossett cover letter. Needless to say, they were not impressed. So don't let that be you. Make sure you can distinguish the titles of your documents and you attach the right ones, okay? Unofficial transcript. You can only have one unofficial transcript in Simplicity at any given time, and you will simply update it each semester when you get a new one. We're going to go into the document library in a minute. So you put in your transcript if they're asking for it. They're asking for a writing sample in Brian Cave, so I've got my writing sample in here. If you have multiple writing samples, again, that's fine, no problem. You might have, different subject areas that you want to choose from based on who you're applying to, and that's totally fine. Just make sure you can distinguish the titles when you're in this drop-down list. Okay? There's a box down here called Preferred Locations. Sometimes when a firm is interviewing for multiple offices, they want you to distinguish in your bid, not in your cover letter, in your bid, what your favorite or preferred office is, or if you want to delineate several preferences, you have to rank order them. It's just an employer preference. Some will ask for it in the cover letter. Some will specifically say, please identify your top 3 office choices in the preferred location section. That's this text box right here. Okay? Again, just follow their instructions. Whatever they want, make it as easy as possible for them. The information simply shows up for them in a different place, and it might be easier for them to have it one way versus another. Okay? So once you're ready to submit your bid, you hit apply, and you're good. Let's see. Did it let me do it? It wasn't supposed to. Because, no, it didn't let me. Because I hadn't identified a bid number. But when you are finished, you hit the apply button, and what will happen is it will move your bid to the top of the employer list. So right now, everything is no bid, but after you're finished, or once you've started your bidding, it will start putting your bids up at the top of the list, and you'll see what numbers you've used. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you come back to your bidding the next day, okay, I need to pick up number 5. And they're all right there for you, very easy. Any questions so far? Okay. Go ahead.
When will we get the schedule of who's coming on what date?
I'm going to send y'all a list in the next couple weeks. but you will have access to the list in Simplicity with all the details right after graduation. So once we take the 3 Ls and turn them into alums, the 1 Ls become 2 Ls, the 2 Ls become 3 Ls, and right now all of this information is sitting in the 2 L account for Simplicity. So as soon as you become a 2 L in mid-May after graduation, you'll see it. Okay? Yes?
Do you change a bid ranking after you already submit it?
You can. You have to put in a number that you haven't used yet. But yes, you can change it. So you would need to swap it for one that you haven't used yet.
And just to be clear, that's only during.
It's only during the open bidding process. So the only changes you can make to your bids in terms of like submitting new ones and changing rankings, you can only do that during the 1-week open bidding process. There is what's called a resume review period after bidding is finished. So if you find out about, say, a journal and you want to add it to your resume after bidding has concluded, you can update your resume and update your bids, and I'll show you how to do that. The trouble with updating your resume after bidding is that literally 1 minute after bidding concludes at 11:59 at midnight, the employers technically, not that anyone's going to be up waiting, but they technically have access to all of the bids as soon as bidding is finished. And that's when they download their packets, they distribute them, they review them, they make their selections. So if you update after bidding is finished, there's no guarantee that the employer is going to see your updated bid with the new resume. It just depends when during the window that they have for review, they actually download and review.
Okay, but like say for some reason you wanted to like switch your like number 6 and number 10, like you can do that, or you have to just define
During bidding you can.
Yeah.
Yep, you can. But after bidding is finished, no, you can't. Okay. All right. So that's the OCI section. Once schedules have come out, there's a scheduled interviews tab. You'll see your scheduled interviews here. And we have detailed bidding instructions, which shows you all of this, including, not for early interview week necessarily, because there are no classes going on at that time, but for OCI occurring during the semester, you need to enter your class schedule so that we know when not to schedule you for interviews in August and September. We're not going to go through that right now, because I want to be respectful of your time. But the detailed bidding instructions make it really easy. If you should have something that makes you unavailable for interviews during a limited period of time during early interview week, what you can do is put it into the system. So under calendar, if you have, you'll see the multiple tabs across here. Hopefully y'all have seen this before. Under personal events, let's say I'm traveling for a wedding on August 9th and I need to leave by 2 o'clock. I need to make sure the system doesn't schedule me for an interview after 2 o'clock on a certain day during early interview week. What I can do is add a personal event. And if you want to do that, you just click Add New, give it a title, something you're going to recognize on your own calendar, and put in the date and the time that you are unavailable. This is not for your class schedule. This is for something that would be a one-time only kind of block of time during early interview week, okay? So if you are unavailable for any period of time, you really need to let us know, because we're scheduling like 1,200 interviews, and we can't, the system needs to know when you're not available. And you put it in the system, you hit submit, and it will pop up like this. No interviews, I'm traveling for a wedding on August 9th from 2 to 7 p.m. The system will block that out and will schedule you for an interview on August 9th if you're selected for one before 2 o'clock. You'll be done by 2, because the system will block you out as of 2 o'clock. Okay? All right, documents. As we talked about during bidding, all your documents should be in the system, error-free, and looking fabulous, because you worked on them all summer. They should be in your document collection before you start bidding. Hopefully y'all have uploaded documents before, okay? Here's what's in my document collection right now. You saw that I have 2 resumes. I have resume spring 2015. That one is identified as default. I have my other resume in here, new resume. If I decide I want to switch that one to default, I just click the Make Default button, and it changes it. This is important because if you are going to be making resume changes after the bidding period concludes, if you only have one version of your resume, it is going to be your default resume. If you use your default resume in all your bids and say you've got 30 bids, and then you make a journal, and you're like, oh no, I need to update all 30 of these bids. You can update all 30 bids with your default resume with one click if you have identified it as your default and you attach that default resume to all your bids. If you're using multiple different versions and you don't know which is which, you have to go into each and every bid and make sure you select the appropriate resume update for each one. So that's the importance of the default. Again, cover letters, just identify them in a way that you can identify them. If you want to add a new document, we're going to do this real fast. All right, give it a name, the label, whatever you want, anything you can identify. If you need to update your unofficial transcript, you read this red note right here and you click here. Again, it only lets you do one unofficial transcript at a time. I strongly encourage all of you to get official transcripts. You can get the electronic one, you can get the paper one. Please, dear God, do not do a screen grab off of Inside ND. It looks horrible. Please don't do it. It's really unprofessional. So we have an unofficial grade sheet template for you, and there is also a very easy, quick turnaround to get an official transcript. It looks much better, and most of your colleagues who are bidding for these same things are going to be using really nice transcripts. So if you do a screen grab off of Inside ND, you're going to look bad. So don't do that. When you're uploading your document, you identify it as the type of document it is. You can have unlimited versions of all these kinds of documents, cover letters, writing sample, other documents, just not transcripts. You're only allowed to have one at a time. If you need to upload an undergrad transcript, because maybe you are applying for IP positions, you would code that as an other document. Let's see, if somebody asks for references or a letter of recommendation or anything that is not a resume, cover letter, writing sample, or transcript, it will be other. You will still need to identify your choice of other document by giving it a label that you will identify. Okay? Then you browse for your file, you attach it, and you're good to go. I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that you upload PDFs that you've already converted into Simplicity. The reason for that is there's far less room for error. If you have created something in Word, you have converted it to PDF, you've looked at it, and then you've imported it in a PDF format that you know looks good, and then you upload it into your document library. If you try to upload a Microsoft Word document, it's going to let you. It's going to convert it to PDF for you. But you run a much higher risk of not looking at it, and I cannot tell you how many times there has been a 2-page resume for someone who has uploaded a Word document and it converted it to PDF, but the margin at the bottom was too small, so it put in an extra piece of paper that was just blank and created a 2-page PDF. Really annoying. Makes you look bad in the packet that the employers get. So be meticulous about these details. Upload a PDF that you've already approved. Okay? Yes?
I was just curious as to how many of these firms typically require letters of rec. I didn't see one in that previous.
None.
None of them do?
Nope. It's an outlier, but it does happen. Smaller firms sometimes will ask for references. IP firms will definitely ask for undergrad transcripts. Letters of rec are more common with clerkships, but every once in a while it comes up. So, yep.
Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome. Probably about half, maybe even less, of the employers that come will ask you for a cover letter. If they don't ask you for a cover letter, don't give them one. We had someone one year who created a 2-page file and uploaded it as her resume, but it was the cover letter plus the resume as one PDF. The law firms know what they want, and if they don't want a cover letter, you're just going to annoy them by giving them one. So don't. Just follow their instructions, give them what they want. All right. So we go back to our document library. We've got everything here. If we want to delete something, you get to have 50 documents, 50, in your document library at any given time. That is enough. You're not going to need to have more than 50 in there at any given time. After early interview week is finished, and you've submitted all your bids and everything's been done, you can delete anything and everything you want. I recommend that you do not delete things from your document library during bidding, or during the time between bidding and interviews take place. Because if anything goes wrong and bids need to be packets need to be created or regenerated, or the employers are looking for materials and your materials are gone, that's not going to be good. If for any reason you exceed 50, you need to reevaluate what you're uploading, and then call me. Any questions on uploading documents, attaching them to your bid? All pretty good so far? Okay. That's basically it for me on bidding. That literally is bidding. You make sure you have your documents in the right place, you review your employers, you attach them, you do it during the specified window, and you're good to go. There's no advantage to bidding early in the window versus bidding late in the week. But again, as I said yesterday, bidding ends at 11:59 on a Friday. No one is going to be available to help you at 11:59 on a Friday. I'm certainly not going to be here. I had mentioned the default resume kind of system. In the OCI tab, where you submit all your bids and you're looking at everything, there's this little section called Default OCI Resume. Right now, it shows my default resume as Resume Spring 2015. You may recall a minute ago I was in my document library and I changed that default. I can change that here and say, okay, I'm now going to change it to the new resume, and I'm going to update my default. And it gives you this little warning. It's going to update your existing default resume, and it's going to change all your bids that contain your default resume. So you have to opt in or not. It's just like a little reminder. If you're going to update your resume with an updated activity or a journal or a GPA or anything that you want employers to know about, you can do it with the default resume with this one click. You just say OK, and the system will automatically update any bid containing the default resume. It only works for resume, not cover letter, not writing sample, not transcript, just this. Okay? All right. Any questions? Yes?
I have one more quick question.
Yeah.
It's about something you mentioned yesterday.
Okay.
I recall you saying that there was like a document in Simplicity that had all the information about last year's employers and how many associates they took, or how many people they interviewed, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So
it's not in Simplicity, it's in the NALP directory.
Oh.
So every member firm of NALP, the National Association of Legal Placement, they have basically a biographical form about each office. It identifies the recruiting contact, the hiring partner. It gives the hiring information, summer associates, how many of them get the offers. And that's going to be at NALP.org. And then on the right-hand side, there is a button. Here, I'll call it over here. The NALP directory. Oh, gee, thanks. This site will be your friend. Okay, so right here, the NALP directory of legal employers. You click through on this, and it takes you to nalpdirectory.com. So if you want to just bookmark that or write that down, nalpdirectory.com. You can pull up any member organization. It's mostly law firms. It's not exclusively law firms. So let's stick with our Jones Day example. Put in Jones Day. Here are all the Jones Day forms for each and every office. Okay. Click through on Atlanta. Here's the contact information. Joel May is the hiring attorney. Marissa Reeves is the recruiting contact. Here's their overview. If you want to look at their recruitment and hiring, you click on recruitment and hiring. Hiring grid, here's how many people they had in that office for various years. Summer associate hiring questions, so how many got offers, all that good stuff, okay? Any and all member firms will have these bio forms. Definitely use them, okay? Thank you for asking that. One last thing I wanted to mention, the documents, the resources section in your Simplicity account has a whole host of helpful and important information. We have the whole OCI and OSIP overview document here with all the bidding dates and deadlines, when the schedules are coming out. A lot of these materials are all of these materials are in our resource center on the CDO website, but we also put them in Simplicity because you're already in here doing a lot of this stuff and it might be easier. So here's your cover letter guide, here's the interview guide, networking, resume guide, here are your bidding instructions, the transcript upload guide, here's our grade sheet template, writing sample guide. It's all here, super easy, okay? So use them. What else? Any other questions? Yes?
If you have to miss a whole day of the week,
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah,
and I'm assuming that they only come for one day, right?
that's true. Yeah, every employer is only going to be here one day.
Can you apply separately and tell them if they're only there that day that you miss?
You can if you're definitely not going to be available, and you know that. Then you can reach out to them in advance and say, and make sure you make that incredibly clear, because they'll think you haven't looked and you don't, like, oh no, we're going to OCI, so, we're not going to speak with you now. But you say, I know you're coming on August 12th, I'm unavailable, I'm not going to be on campus that day, I would like to submit my application materials for your consideration, and here you go. So yes, you can do that. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Alrighty. Well, thank you guys for coming. Really appreciate it. Be on the lookout for many emails from me. And if you ever have any questions, just come see me. I'm always around. I was a candy. Bye guys, thanks.